my Mercurial mercenaries, possibly the most off-the-cuff episode of Discover ever. We're going to listen to, and this is for the benefit, not for the benefit of Mr. Kite, this is for the benefit of Mr. Floyd. We're going to listen to Genesis. And I have 3 albums here. I have Trespass, Nursery, CRYME, and FOXTROT. And apparently the first of these albums is Trespass. I don't know anything about this album at all. It's Gatefold! I'm getting too old for that. The reason this mark is going across the whole album sleeve here is because there's a knife. There's a knife stuck. You see that? There's a knife stuck in there. We can recreate this using perspective. Hang on. Okay, we can't recreate it. Side 1, looking for someone. So what I really liked about Selling England by the Pound was Phil Collins drumming. Greatest drummer, one of the greatest drummers of all time. But this is a very, very early Genesis album. John Mayhew drums. I suspected it wouldn't be Phil Collins, so my only assumption could be that this drummer won't be as good as Phil Collins, because Phil Collins is one of the best drummers of all time. And yet, so far, if I had to guess who it was, I would have said it was a Phil Collins-esque drummer. Diggity, 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 diggity. I mean, I'm a fan of this style of drumming. If your aim is to impress rather than success, then just go for it. And I like going for it. I don't care about success. I'm listening to all this music anyway. I don't mind if it's successful or not. That keyboard line's weird. Bass is high in the mix. I like that. Did we play Chewbacca? So that was Looking for Someone. And I'm not sure about that song. It was actually it was like everyone was just soloing. Drums were soloing, the bass guitar was soloing. It was like the solo songs from Fragile by Yes, but they were all playing their solo songs at the same time. Oh, I like the melody on the vocals. Don't like the drums. It can snow here. What am I talking about? If it's going to snow anywhere, it's going to snow here. Well, apart from Antarctica. Didn't he just say then, hard on his trail? It says there, hard on his tail. Ooh, is this a song of good verses and shit choruses? Oh, that's very Monkey's Head. Bassy organ coming in there, not sexually. We're going into Visions of Angels now. Bloody organ going off in my left ear. It's distracting. Why she's never there, I still don't understand. Some strange drum pattern choices. I'm not sure he's played any drum beats yet. He's just playing drum fills. That was alright. As far as side 1s go of vinyl, that was one long drum solo, but those of you who know me know that I love King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, so the idea of one long drum solo doesn't bother me. But the choices that the drummer was making and certain points of a song that just needed a bit of a solid beat were a bit odd. The bassist was... I quite like the bass. It was loud in the mix, good, and there were times there with the bass and the drums interconnected, interlocked, and it sounded good. The organ was all over the place, too twee, and I would say that the choice of drum patterns and the organ let the side down. Not arse. No drum fills yet. To Thomas S. Eiselberg, a very rich man, who was wise enough to spend all his fortunes in burying himself many miles beneath the ground. As the only surviving member of the human race, he inherited the whole world. It sounds like Ringo Starr on good night. Well, the ice cold knife has come to decorate the dead. I definitely have the potential to become a big Peter Gabriel fan. Don't go overboard here, Peter. Don't ruin what was the best song on the album. Here we go. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it. I want a drink. I want a drink. I want a drink. Somebody get this man a drink. Somebody get this man a drink. The bits in that song where they held back on some of the instruments and the drums weren't there was brilliant. Best song on the album. When everyone joined in, it all got a bit... Okay, we've probably got the most apt song ever now. It's called Knife. No! This is a bit Alice Cooper off Love It to Death. Can you write down below what the reason is for getting rid of this drummer? His drum rolling is impeccable across all 18 toms. No? No, it's someone playing a paper and comb. Oh yeah? A rock solo. And a drum fill. They can play. What the hell is this? Somebody get this guy a drink. That was Trespass by Genesis from 1970, which was 3 songs on side 1, 3 songs on side 2. Had the feel that it might have been a concept album. I would certainly need to listen to it again to work out what the concept was. But it seemed to be sort of, oh, blimey, wasn't that? Like ecological. I mean, around the same time, Marvin Gaye was doing What's Going On, wasn't he? So overall, there were moments on that album I really liked. There were moments that I thought were a bit shit. So I give it, nah. But I think this paves the way, because we know what they become. In a few albums' time, I know that they become Selling England by the Pound, which I remember I quite liked, didn't I? But next, we've got to listen to Nursery Crime. We have quite a macabre cover with this kind of evil-looking girl who really is looking in a kind of evil fashion towards the camera, playing croquet with severed heads all over the croquet pitch, with the smell of old. Nursery Crime. And I do like that title, Nursery Crime. Gotta get my brush on it. Got some coffee. We're okay. So my criticism of Trespass was that the drummer was just drum rolling through the whole album. And I said I could easily see myself becoming a Peter Gabriel fan. So this is Steve Hackett on the guitar now. It seems more guitar-y than Trespass already. 1971, remember? That is a soundscape, doesn't it? That's lush. They sounded like they were recorded in a cupboard then. Let's hope it improves. Okay. Alright. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. All the kids' horses and all the kids' men. Let's see those Rick Wakeman fingers. Knight Rider theme tune there. This is the musical box. The reverb on that vocal was strange. Just sounded like it was in the room, in the studio. The room sound. Not sure about that. Touch me, I wanna feel your body. Sam Fox. Yes, come on. Oh, I like that. A few production issues, but overall, that kicked some ass, didn't it? Ooh, technically, the guitars are better on this album, aren't they? See, that sounded like Phil Collins then, singing. What you got to understand is the songs on the gatefold are out of order. All these bands were all doing the same sort of shit at the same time. Yeah, he did. I like that. Strike by night! I would do anything for you with a hawkweed. Giant hawkweed lives! Come on! I feel for them. They've written an album about how shit it is to do the weeding. I feel for them on Mercenaries. It's always felt like there's a divide between the theatre and pop music. This album, I think, in the future is going to sound green. Yeah, Phil Collins knows when to just play the beat, but he's still not playing anything simply, is he? Other drummers here just beat on. Not Phil. That is epic. people would be competing to see how many instruments they could claim they played on an album. The subject matter sounds nursery rhyme-ish, and the album's called Nursery Crime. Ooh, I like that. What a strange little song. You used to be able to get a teaspoon into a Cadbury's cream egg, scoop the insides out. What's important to know here is how big their teaspoon was. But then I joined in the nonsense by saying, well, I'm pretty sure that Wham bars used to be bigger, wider, and curly whirlies used to be longer. Or was it just the Mandela effect? Because apparently Nelson Mandela was a big fan of curly whirlies and Whams. It works, look. It's a bit dangerous, this is razor sharp. Was Harold the Barrel Humpty Dumpty? It might have been. Oh yeah. Terry Wogan was an expert at it. Drums in a cupboard. He's fluttering within the beat. You got me on at the top of your game to do that. Yeah, I like that guitar work. Epic. Out! Okay, my mercenaries. That was Nursery. Oh, look at the state of me. I do apologise. It's about 100 degrees in here. You could fry an egg on my forehead. You could melt a chocolate egg on my forehead, and that's not a sexual euphemism. That was Nursery Crime by Genesis from 1971. Standard of musicianship, phenomenal. The introduction of Phil Collins to the band. So, and therefore the difference between Trespass and Nursery Crime. I don't want to downplay the contribution of the drummer on Trespass because he was the king of the drum roll. However, you can already hear here that Phil Collins is a drummer like no other. Peter Gabriel's doing his usual shit. The introduction of Steve Hackett has elevated the guitars from there to there. I love the power of the mellotron. There was a few moments on here that were epic. There was a few moments that were good. There was some nonsense going on. I'm not sure that the song, I mean, yeah, the idea of a hogweed taking over the world and stuff, it does work on an album called Nursery Crime. But I would like to think that over the course of other albums that I'll listen to by Genesis, that the songs become a little more memorable and a little bit less of a technical tour de force. So that would be my criticism if I had one. Overall, would I recommend that you go and listen to this album without me talking over it? Yeah, I am genuinely excited to listen to this album. Trespass was okay. Nursery Rhyme was a lot better. I'm attributing that to the introduction of Steve Hackett and especially Phil Collins on the drums. This one, I'm assuming, is going to progress from Nursery Crime. Now, I think this is the last time that this particular artist was allowed to draw Genesis album sleeves. I believe he did Trespass, which the band quite liked. Mrs. Dorman, they stuck the knife into it. He did Nursery Crime, which the band liked. I find both of these album covers, to be fair, a bit amateurish. I quite like the macabre nature of this one. The evil-looking girl. I mean, we've already spoken about this, but the evil-looking girl with the severed heads playing croquet with severed heads. But when the same artist did Foxtrot, the band apparently thought this was too amateurish. And, I mean, I don't know, you can tell me the full story in the comments, but they kind of sacked him for it. However, looking at, say, Nursery Crime versus Foxtrot, I'm not sure I can see any particular differences between the art style. If anything, I quite like Foxtrot compared to the previous two. Who am I to judge? This is going to be Watcher of the Skies. I like the continuation of the Morse code-esque thing through it. But my issue with Genesis up to this point has been the musicianship has been doing that. But I'm kind of waiting for that song that says, "Gotcha!" by the knackers. Well, the surface noise is louder than the organ. Okay. Next. Have to play Sports in Your Pants. Sounds like a song. What a pretty song. This might be the most song-like song Genesis have done so far. Also starring Guy and Paul. Sounds like a hairdresser's. We're going into Peter Gabriel's character mode, aren't we? I represent a song about Mr. Pebble of Styx Enterprises evicting his tenants. Was he dressed as a fox in a dress on stage? So I won't put it past him. If I had known this years ago, I'd have got into Genesis years ago. But overall, this album isn't afraid to bring it right back. The dynamics, bring it right down so you can push it right back up again. And whereas at similar moments on Trespass, the drummer would have just been rolling the kit, Phil Collins. No, let's be fair. Phil Collins knows when to hold back, and he can still unleash genetic control. Pushing this band closer and closer towards musical theatre. I like that sync of all the instruments together. There's power to that. We're certainly getting stories told to music here. That's nice. Not sure about that bit. My turn to noodle. Nice acoustic, songy sounding intro. A song called Supper's Ready. All of this is the next song. The harmonics.
Walking across.
Here we go. Part 1 of Supper's Ready. It's called Lover's Leap. That was nice. I like the doubling of the vocals with the high vocal. That's a bit Riders on the Storm, isn't it?
Riders on the storm. Riders on the storm.
There's not a song that can't be improved with a children's choir. Production, I like the integration of the vocals to the music on this one. It's a bit better than Nursery Crime. Phil Collins has been quite restrained, but you can hear there's the potential to explode, just bubbling under the surface. Wow. We've suddenly got some guttural bass and drums going on. Where did this come from? Like I said, suddenly guttural bass sounds coming out of this piece of vinyl. There's Winston Churchill, dressed in drag. He used to be a British flag, plastic bag. What a drag. The frog was a prince. The prince was a brick. The brick was an egg. And the egg was a bird. Haven't you heard? Peter Gabriel's vocals are coming on something. There is some confidence here. He's not trying to be the singer of a band. He is the singer of the band. This is monstrous. Come on. Holy shit. That was quite a song. I'll give it that. I'll give it that. Obviously the highlights for me. Is that the end? Obviously the highlights for me. The Winston Churchill verse was one of the most fantastic things I've ever heard. And I liked the final note of Jerusalem! That was good. Phil Collins drumming, restrained, but intricate where it needed to be. Tony Banks sounded better on this album. The guitars are starting to sound massive. Peter Gabriel is a confident mother. And overall, there was bits and pieces on that I really liked. I'm not sure whether I liked it more than Nursery Crime, to be honest with you, but there was moments on there, on the album as a whole, that sounded like songs. And there was moments during that Supper's Ready song that just sounded like the world was ending. And you know, that's what I like. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little burst of Genesis. 3 albums back to back. Thank you very much. I liked that. recommended. I recommend you listen to it without me talking over it, and perhaps without so much vinyl surface noise. Over and